Israel-Hamas war. Aid agencies say they can't send food to Gaza. The United Nations was forced to stop deliveries of food and other necessities to Gaza on Friday and warned of the growing possibility of widespread starvation after internet and telephone services collapsed in the besieged enclave because of a lack of fuel. Israel announced that it will allow for the first time 2 tanker trucks of fuel daily into Gaza for the UN and communication systems. The amount is about half of what the UN said it needs to conduct life-saving functions for hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza, including fueling water systems, hospitals, bakeries, and its trucks delivering aid. Israel has barred entry of fuel since the start of the war, saying it would be diverted by Hamas for military means. It has also blocked food, water, and other supplies except for a trickle of aid from Egypt that aid workers say falls far short of what's needed. The communications blackout, now in its second day, largely cuts off Gaza's 2.3 million people from one another and the outside world. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, known as UNRWA, couldn't bring in its aid convoy Friday because of the communications cutoff and won't be able to as long as it continues, said spokesperson Juliette Touma. An extended blackout means an extended suspension of our humanitarian operations in the Gaza Strip, Touma told the Associated Press. Israeli forces have signaled they could expand their offensive toward Gaza's south even while continuing operations in the north. Troops have been searching the territory's biggest hospital for traces of a Hamas command center. The military alleges was located under the building. The war, now in its 6th week, was triggered by Hamas's October 7 attack in southern Israel, in which the militants killed more than 200 people, mostly civilians, and abducted some 240 men, women, and children. On Friday, the military said it found the body of another hostage, identifying her as CPL Noah Marciano. Marciano's body was recovered in a building adjacent to Shifa, the military said, like that of another hostage found Thursday, Yehudit Weiss. More than 11,400 Palestinians have been killed in the war, 2/3 of them women and minors, according to Palestinian health authorities. Another 2,700 have been reported missing, believed buried under rubble. The count does not differentiate between civilians and militants, and Israel says it has killed thousands of militants. After an American request, Israel agreed to allow 2 tanker trucks of fuel into the Gaza Strip each day, a quantity that National Security Advisor Tzachi Hanegbi called very minimal. A U.S. State Department official said Israel also agreed to let in 10,000 liters a day, 40 gallons, for the communications network. Touma said UNRWA and other humanitarian groups need at least 120,000 liters, 700 gallons, a day to run life-saving functions. Since the war began, Gaza has received only 10% of its required food supplies each day in shipments from Egypt. The breakdown of water and sewage systems has left 70% of the population drinking brackish or contaminated water, causing an outbreak of waterborne diseases. Israeli officials previously vowed fuel would not be let in until Gaza militants release the hostages. The government has been under heavy public pressure in Israel to show it is doing all it can to bring back the men, women, and children abducted in Hamas's attack. Thousands of marchers, including families of over 50 hostages, embarked Friday on the 4th leg of a 5-day walk from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem chanting, "Bring them home." Speaking from Shifa Hospital on Friday, Dr. Ahmad Mukalalti told Al Jazeera television that there was no electricity to run ventilators or provide ICU patients with oxygen. Shifa's director, Mohammed Abu Selmia, told Al Jazeera that 52 patients have died since fuel ran out a week ago, up from 40 reported dead before Israeli troops stormed in on Tuesday. Abu Selmia said Israeli troops should either bring them fuel to power equipment or allow an evacuation. The hospital has become a giant prison, he said. As its troops continue to search Shifa, Israel faces pressure to prove its claim that Hamas set up its main command center in and under the hospital. So far, Israel has mainly shown photos and video of weapons caches that it says its soldiers found inside. The allegations are part of Israel's broader accusation that Hamas uses Palestinians as human shields across the Gaza Strip, contending that is the reason for the large numbers of civilian casualties during weeks of bombardment. Airstrikes continued to hammer the southern sector of Gaza, where most of the territory's population is now sheltering. Among them are hundreds of thousands of people who heeded Israel's calls to evacuate Gaza City and the north to get out of the way of its ground offensive. In the Nusayrat refugee camp, a strike crushed a building to rubble, killing at least 41 people, staff at the nearby hospital said. Early morning strikes outside the city of Khan Younis killed 11 members of a family who had evacuated from Gaza City. Dozens of wounded, including babies and young children, streamed into the nearby hospital. So far, Israel's ground assault has focused on northern Gaza as it vows to remove Hamas from power and crush its military capabilities. Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzl Halevi said Thursday, "We are close to dismantling the military system that was in the north." As the war continues to inflame tensions elsewhere, Israeli troops clashed with Palestinian gunmen in Jenin in the occupied West Bank, killing at least 3 Palestinians.